Hi everybody. This week we are discussing John Stuart Mill and his thoughts on utilitarian principles. I really enjoyed reading through the papers, and I thought you guys did a really nice job on Mill's bio. Most of you said about the same things on the bio, so I won't highlight any of those issues. But what I did want to talk about was some of the contemporary issues that you applied utilitarian thinking to. I think you did a really nice job, and there are 6 different issues that I wanted to highlight this week. I hope you find them interesting, and it's always fun to take a peek at what your classmates are doing. So the first issue that was touched on was comparison between first-class seating or business seating and just regular seating for airline customers. And so the way that this applied to utilitarian thinking was that because you're charged more for a first-class seat, that enables the airline to make additional funding, which they can then feed back into some of the amenities that they give all the passengers. So in that way, a greater number of passengers benefit by those who are willing to pay a little bit more for seating. Now, the second contemporary issue that was applied was torture of a suspect in the case of bombing. So in this particular example, the suspect was seen as having made a bomb that was going to detonate. And what needed to be decided here was whether or not to torture this suspect in order to get the information about where the bomb was located and therefore saving a great amount of people. So as you can see, this unethical behavior of torturing in this instance would be justified in order to save the greater amount of people for the greater good. Now, the third example I wanted to touch on was on the current rules and regulations that have been made against smoking in public. So this greater good argument is that smoking in public places has been banned in order to benefit those people that are non-smokers. So we're weighing the rights of 2 different people here, smokers and non-smokers. And because of the detrimental effects of smoking, the category of people, if you will, that comes on top are the non-smokers. Of course, there have been many debates that this takes away the smokers' rights, so there are some obvious problems to think about there and determine what would be the greater good. Health and safety is usually at the top of the list when we're trying to determine value and principles, and for this reason, the conclusion that banning smoking is the better choice was correct in this instance. Another great example was the legalization of marijuana. And here the argument is that many people will benefit from the legalization of marijuana, and economies will benefit as well. So this is seen as the greater good that goes against the minority opinion that we should not legalize marijuana. A 5th example was population control, and this student touched on whether or not we should limit the amount of children in order to better control the population, the economy, and our resources. And this student pointed out the example of China's population policy and how some changes have been made from a 1-child policy to now a 2-child policy. And the last example I wanted to share with you was about veteran homelessness versus supporting refugees from other countries, taking them in and supporting them in this country. Now, I thought this was an interesting example because it really speaks to who has more rights, those that live in the country or those that live outside of the country, when something inhumane is taking place. Do we value our own culture more and set aside the needs of the other culture, or do we try to make some kind of accommodation? So I think this last one brought up some really interesting questions to think about as we put one country's rights against other countries' rights. So that's what we have for the essays this week. If I didn't touch on your essay, I will try to touch on it next time, and I'll see you then.